Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Kopi Chats with Wei Lin. This evening I'm doing a late stream because the first US presidential debate just took place this morning, and I spent a fair amount of time this evening going through the whole thing and taking some notes about some notable aspects. There are only a few things that I wanted to observe from a communication and persuasion point of view, because I don't want to get into the weeds of the topics. I think plenty of people do a terrific job of that, so I won't be covering that. Now, I'll get started immediately, okay? So, first, let's talk a little bit about President Trump. So, in this debate, he went really only on the attack. And throughout, he attacks and attacks and attacks his opponent Joe Biden's points, and he really doesn't spend much time on the defense. He doesn't really take the time to, clarify matters or to apologize or to, make people feel good. Instead, he takes plenty of time to drum up his accomplishments, to burnish his accomplishments, and to attack Joe Biden's track record. Let me show you a few instances where he does this. Okay, his favorite is, why didn't you do it in all your years in government? So let me show you right here.
In fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you are.
There you go. So that's one, about helping people suffering during the COVID pandemic. Another one at 4620.
500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it
billions
before when you were vice president with Obama?
So there Joe Biden was talking about rich people not paying enough taxes, and that he's going to reform the tax code. And again, Donald Trump attacks him and goes like, well, why didn't you do it, when you were vice president? Okay, then there's another one here.
In a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that, because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that as far.
And that's on crime, about race. So talking about how each candidate, can do a better job for the black community. President Trump was attacking Joe Biden and say that, well, you supported this crime bill in 1994 that was super controversial, and you actually called black people or some black criminals super predators because they're exceptionally dangerous. So clearly, this is hyperbole. Like nobody is saying that all black people are one way or the other. There's no such thing. So I think we have to be aware. Like, just to be clear, this is hyperbole. This is exaggeration. But you can see the line of attack here. Okay, I've got one more. Still about this. Just to give you a full idea.
You have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up.
So there you go. Even on the climate, about the environment, President Trump does the same thing, attacking Joe Biden for his track record. So he has been in politics for 47 years. I had no idea. That's an insanely long time, from my point of view, being super young. So I think that was just insane to think about. So that's President Trump's mode of operation in this debate, going on attack, right? Now let's talk a little bit about Joe Biden, because I have way more notes about Joe Biden. I feel that a lot has been said already about President Trump's technique in communication, how he uses hyperbole, how he uses his salesmanship to get his point across. But Joe Biden is the new thing here for me, at least. So I paid a lot more attention there. And I think that'll be kind of interesting too. So I'll start off by telling you, I think Joe Biden does a whole lot of mind reading. And honestly, personally, I have a problem with that. I think it's okay if you criticize your debate partner and say that, they did this or they said this, and these, these are things we disagree with and it's bad. That's fine. But it's totally different matter if you read the mind of your opponent and say, well, my opponent doesn't care about, minorities. My opponent doesn't care about poor people. That's just absurd, because how would you know? You can't actually know. You could say, like, based on his actions, I think that he doesn't care about poor people. Fair enough. But to make a claim about somebody's state of mind, I think that's unacceptable. So let me show you what I mean here, okay? First one here is about COVID-19 after a rally.
By the way, did you see one of the last big rallies he has? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no next.
So that's one example. Let me show you another one.
Very soon.
Do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked, or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what?
So how would you know, right? How would you know that your opponent panicked? That's just mind reading. Pure and simple. Okay, just one more here.
And they were teaching people to hate our country, and I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's the racist.
You just don't.
Here's the deal.
See, making an assertion that he's the racist, that is absolutely a scumbag thing to do. Well, and I want to explain why I say that, because I think it's a very severe accusation. And I think that here in 2020, we observed, huge amount of racial tension in society in the United States going on right now. It's live, it's an issue, people are in the streets. And to assert, to claim that, well, you're the racist, he's the racist, is extremely inflammatory. Why would you do that, right? If you are the candidate who is, campaigning on the brand that, you're a decent guy, you're not going to be like this crazy and, offensive Donald Trump, then you need to be the sensible guy and you need to calm things down. So, but by labeling your opponent racist, aren't you just making things worse? Aren't you doing exactly the kind of thing that you claim to be against? So for that reason, I think I don't really agree with that. Okay, but anyway, that's my complaint out of the way. Joe Biden, though, does have some really nifty moves that I quite like with the communication. I have 4 examples here that I quite like about how he deflects attention away from questions or topics that he doesn't like. So let me show you the first one here at 31:45.
Go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know.
So that's just a non-answer, because why? The question is, why is Joe Biden hesitant to reopen the schools and economy? And his response is, well, because Donald Trump doesn't have a plan. That makes 0 sense whatsoever. But everybody seemed to let it go. Everybody just seemed to let it go. The moderator didn't say anything, and President Trump didn't jump on it either. And it just went like that so smoothly. So that was pretty remarkable to me. Okay. He just continued on this thread of hammering home the point that President Trump didn't have a plan. So didn't have a plan. And in that moment, it just came out as a natural thing and went unchallenged. Pretty nifty. Okay, what else do I got?
It wasn't booming. It was the weakest
Well, sir,
recovery since
wait. Is it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact,
COVID came out.
when there was record low unemployment
Yeah.
before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris. Wait.
Number
So the question was, is it fair to criticize the Donald Trump economy because prior to the COVID pandemic, unemployment was at a record low? So Joe Biden's response is, well, yes, it is, because even before the COVID, manufacturing was in a hole. And that's such a memorable frame, by the way. Manufacturing was in a hole. Because anything in a hole is just in a really bad situation. There's never a situation where you actively want something in a hole. Yeah, I can't think of anything. So does it answer that, is it addressing directly the point about the economy? Is the economy in good health? Is it in a good place? Was it doing well? Yeah, it doesn't matter. He just wanted to say that manufacturing was in a terrible place, and he went with it, right? So that was also a very skillful deflection. And I think these two at least seem too skillful to be just some remarks offhand. They seem prepared, is what I mean. Here's another one.
wow. Excuse me.
Hey, let me just say to you.
No. Mr. President.
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
That is simply
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million from
It-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
my
already...
family,
No, let him go.
my family
already
lost
wrote.
a fortune by
Go
coming down and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's such a...
they're right
that's
here.
a-
Mr.
that's
President.
such a
Every
great...
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune
about
by
my
coming and
family or
helping
his
us
family.
with
It's
government.
about your family,
They
the
didn't
American
collect
people.
$3.5 million
He
for
doesn't...
nothing.
That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You.
So this was a really desperately needed deflection from Joe Biden right here. And he struggled actually for a while. There was a good 10-15 seconds where he was floundering and trying to find his footing. What happened was that President Trump was criticizing Joe Biden about Joe Biden's son receiving money from the ex-wife, the wife of the former mayor of Moscow, something like that, $3.5 million US. Nobody knows why, but apparently it's in public record. You can actually look it up. It's in the news. So Joe Biden did have no idea how to respond to it, and he did blurt out something about we can talk about Donald Trump's family all night long. But in the end, he hit upon exactly the right response, and maybe it's just something he needs to remember. He turned the conversation. He looked straight at the camera and talked about American families, and that was exactly the perfect response. And after that, it totally killed the energy, because who wants to be the selfish guy who's talking about Joe Biden's family or his own family when Joe Biden has already elevated the conversation to talk about American families? That's the main thing. What's more important than that? So he did what Scott Adams, my favorite thinker in the whole world, calls the high ground maneuver. And I think that was perfectly executed. One more. I have just one last deflection to share with you that I think is pretty cool. Okay. Have it here.
Held accountable. The question I have, though, is as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you'd stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it
But
should
you've
be
never called for the people,
He's never
the
said
leader. Excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to
Because
bring in
they-
the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
So there you go. Observe, like, Joe Biden did 2 deflections right there. So the first one was really weak. I've heard other people say, yeah, I mean, you just say, I'm not a holder of public office right now, so technically I can't get involved. I'm just a private citizen. Really, really weak, because you're running for the office of president. And if you're going to be like, well, what's the president but the #1 cheerleader for America, right? So that was really weak. But then afterwards, and it's a move of great technique, although a little scummy, but still technique. They can do the job if you would just stay out of the way. Which, you know, you can debate whether that's true or not, but I think that certainly was good enough to turn attention away from the topic at hand. So yeah. So I think Joe Biden was extremely well prepared. All these 4 times where he came upon difficult topics, he had a deflection prepared to direct the conversation the way that he wanted it, or at least away from what he wanted to avoid. 2 other times, he used a great deal of technique in talking about 2 topics, which I'll now show you.
Inequality, it's about decency, it's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it, but we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people looked like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No.
So, did you get that right? When Joe Biden talked about, you know, people coming out of the dark, of the shadows with their veins bulging, spewing anti-Semitic bile, holding these torches. That's so vivid. And that was about the Charlottesville demonstrations, originally about statues, like historical Confederate statues, and he accused the president of saying that there are fine people on both sides, which many people have interpreted to mean that the president said the racists and the people against the racists were both fine people. Which, okay, just to be clear, it's not true, because there is a transcript. The president, you can actually view the video on YouTube. It's probably, you know, YouTube might recommend it somewhere. If you search for Charlottesville fine people hoax, you'll see the president's full speech where he talks about fine people on both sides, and immediately he says, but I don't mean the racists, they should be condemned totally. So I've seen it enough times that I could just recite that offhand. But I wanted you to observe the technique. Very vivid, very well prepared visual persuasion. And visual persuasion is the most powerful form of persuasion. Second piece that I have, and the last one, is this one.
How many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far more.
That was also like perfect visual persuasion, very strong messaging. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people, after watching the whole debate, came away with these 2 images etched, like seared into their minds even, because it's just extremely powerful. And I'm not here to talk about whether it's the right thing to do. I think Joe Biden set out to make his case, and he did pretty well. You see, he fended off the attacks that he didn't like, and then he presented, you know, 2 strong images that he really wanted people to take away. And for that reason, I think he did really well. And I was surprised because I expected that Donald Trump would basically crush him, you know, in the debate. Like, you would expect it, because President Trump is like full of energy, you know, very aggressive, assertive presence on the stage. He just dominates the stage. So for Joe Biden to do as well as he did was amazing. And And I think these points showcase exactly how he managed to do that. And all the preparation that he put into it clearly had paid off. So that's all I've prepared for today, or rather this evening. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a little about the technique on display, and I hope to share a lot more of these with you. I'll be making more videos as we observe more presidential debates or other interesting news. So join me next time, and until then, take care.